Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, we all know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He commanded us in His book. He says, وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمْ أَدْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here, He commands us. He says, and your Lord said, invoke me or call upon me and ask from me and ask me for anything. He says, I will respond to you or I will answer your dua. Then he continues, he says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ عَنْ إِبَادَتِي سَيَدْخُلُونَ جَهَنَّمَ دَاخِرِينَ. After this he continues, he says, verily, those who turn away from my worship, or those who do not invoke me, they will surely enter into the hellfire in humiliation. As you all know, to the Muslim, dua or supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or calling out to Allah for His aid and assistance and protection is something that is a must for every single Muslim. We cannot go a minute of our lives without being in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can't go a second of our lives without being in need of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He asks us to do one thing. He says in this ayah, call on me and I will answer you. I will answer your dua. But not only has He commanded us to call on Him, but He has told us about the jaza or the reward for those who do not call on Him or those who refuse to call on Him. And this is where in this ayah where He says those who turn away from my worship, and the mufassirin or the people of tafsir, they say that this turning away from this worship that's being described here is this dua or this supplicating to Allah. So He says those who turn away from supplicating to me, then verily they shall enter into the hellfire in humiliation. So we see here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has not only commanded us to call on Him, but He has also warned us against being of those people who do not call upon Him on a regular basis. Now, we know just with any other type of ibadah or any other type of worship, Allah never commands us to worship Him except that He tells us how we should go about worshiping Him. He explains how this worship should be done, whether it's in His book or on the tongue of His messenger, Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Now, as we said a second ago, just like any other type of worship, Allah explained to us how it is that we're supposed to call on Him. He didn't just say, call on me and leave it at that, but rather He commanded you to call on Him. And He also taught you how to call on Him. Again, whether it be in His book or on the tongue of His messenger, alayhi salatu wasalam. The important thing is that there were directions on how it is that we're supposed to call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And unfortunately, many of us have gone our whole lives as Muslims, never learning how it is that we're supposed to call on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether it be that we just never really put forth the effort, or whether no one actually has sat us down and explained to us that there are actually ways in which we should be calling on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what we here at Arabic Virtual Academy have done was put together an actual workshop to explain the fiqh or the understanding on dua or on how it is that we call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this workshop is made up of 4 different classes or 4 different modules. The first of these, we talk in detail about the definition of dua. As well, we discuss some of the legislated proofs that show that dua is actually a big part of Islam. And we also talk about the dire need for every Muslim to be making dua on a regular basis. This isn't something we do once a day or once a week or once a month or even once a year. This is something that we should constantly be doing. As well, we talk about those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger explain to us that our dua should contain. Yes, our dua should contain certain things. And if you don't know what these things are, this is even more of a reason for you to stop procrastinating and register for this course. As well, we talk about those things that keep our dua from being likely to be accepted or keep it from being acceptable. Because there are things that we can be doing in our lives. There are situations that we can be in that could be so harmful to us that could possibly keep our dua from being accepted or acceptable. It's important that as Muslims we know what these things are so we can stay away from them. Because we all have things in our lives that we need to constantly be making dua for. And we need to stay away from these things that are standing as barriers between us and having our dua answered. As well, we discuss different situations that the person that's making dua should be in, or situations which cause an individual's dua to be more likely to be answered. Who from amongst us right now listening to this does not need to find out what keeps their dua from being accepted, what makes their dua more likely to be accepted, and the proper way to make dua? I very much doubt that any of us can say that we don't need to learn this. And this is why, as we said a minute ago, we here at Arabic Virtual Academy, we put this particular workshop together for you. So without taking a lot more of your time, I want you to go down below, fill out the information, and register for this course. And insha'Allah ta'ala, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this course a benefit for all of you as well as all of us. Jazakumullahu khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.